Let us talk some MMA here on the program with the host of Ringside Report Radio, Wednesdays and Fridays right here on TSN 690, as well as Wrestling Uncensored late night on Saturdays. You can check out the website at ringsidereport.net, or you can check him out on twitter.com/DaveSimonMMA. What's going on?
Oh, man. Unbelievable night of fights last night at UFC 166. Top to bottom, just a fantastic card put on by the UFC. We saw one of the greatest fights. Some people were calling it the greatest fight ever between Gilbert Melendez and Diego Sanchez. Those two guys went to war. Melendez wins a decision. Both guys winners there.
But did you agree with the decision? That's the most important thing.
Yeah, of course.
So
of course.
they got it right. Okay, good.
Yeah, Gilbert won that fight. It was a great fight. He clearly won rounds 1 and 2. Round 3 was close. Diego just came out on fire, throwing bombs, and he got hit with a bunch of crazy shots, bleeding all over the place. His eye was swollen shut, but he just kept coming forward, putting his hands against his chest and saying, come on, bring it, just moving forward, bringing the fight. And Gilbert Melendez, they call him El Nino for a reason. The guy is just a storm of punishment, and he went right through Diego Sanchez. It was an amazing fight, one of the greatest fights you will ever see. People were so excited about, UFC 165 with John Jones, Alexander Gustafsson, calling that the greatest fight ever. And people last night were saying, no, we have now surpassed that with Sanchez Melendez last night. It really was one of the greatest fights you will ever see in MMA.
What did Dana White say about it?
He said it was amazing. He loved it.
Okay. Fight of the night, safe to say, with the bonus money?
It won the $60,000 bonus for fight of the night. Submission of the night went to Tony Ferguson with a really nice Darce choke, and the knockout of the night went to John Dodson, knocking out Daryl Montague on the pay-per-view card. Just great fights. Most of the fights ended in a knockout or submission. I mean, we saw finishes in these fights, including the main event. Cain Velasquez beating the hell out of Junior Dos Santos for 4.5 rounds, finishing him in the 5th. Junior took a vicious beating. His face looked worse than it did last time Cain and Junior met. So Cain now 2-1 in the trilogy, and he ties the record for most title defenses as a UFC heavyweight champion at 2. No one has defended it more than twice.
Wow, that shows the competitiveness, I guess, of and the volatility of the category. But
That's
did
right.
you predict it correctly?
I thought that it could go one of two ways. It was either going to be Junior Dos Santos landing the big knockout punch early on in the fight, or Cain putting a beating on for several rounds. And I thought Junior was maybe going to come back this time and get the knockout, but I'm not surprised at the result that we saw last night. Fully expected Cain Velasquez to come out looking strong. If it were to go past the first or second round, I thought it was going to be a Cain Velasquez fight, and that's what we saw. It went into the 5th. It could have been stopped after the 3rd. Junior Dos Santos was beat something nasty. I mean, these two heavyweights took some serious bombs. They throw big-time leather, 240-pounders, each of them, and Cain Velasquez put it on Junior Dos Santos. Junior Dos Santos, for his part, you got to show you got to have respect for what he showed last night. He just has an unbelievable chin. The will to win is always there for him, and he always has power. He's always got pop in his shots. Even, in that 4th round, he was throwing some pretty hard shots that, if landed correctly, could have put Cain Velasquez down. So a great effort by both guys, and now Cain Velasquez will move on to fight Fabricio Verdum next for the UFC heavyweight title, and a win over Verdum would put Cain Velasquez as the only guy to defend the UFC heavyweight championship 3 times, and I think an argument could begin to be made for Cain Velasquez being the greatest heavyweight this sport has ever seen.
Wow, amazing! Amazing to see that he fights the same guy 3 times, and
once a year. Once a year for the past 3 years, these two have fought. And honestly, Matthew, I would not be surprised if we saw them fight again in 2014 and 2015. Yeah.
Is there a lack of depth at the category?
Well, there are a lot of good heavyweights right now, but there are only 2 great heavyweights. And they're Cain Velasquez and Junior Dos Santos. Unfortunately for Junior, he's in a spot where maybe he can't beat him again.
Just bad matchup.
He did it once, landed the big knockout. I don't know if he can do it again. Cain Velasquez has now put a beating on him 2 straight fights. But Junior can look around at the UFC heavyweight division and pretty much have his pick and beat everybody else. So he's in a weird spot.
So he's not going anywhere. He'll be around.
Exactly. He's going to win a fight or 2 or 3. But I don't see anybody beating Junior Dos Santos other than Cain Velasquez. So I fully expect Junior to get another shot at Cain in the future. I don't see Cain getting beat by anybody. I don't see Junior getting beat by anybody. I think the only wild card in this whole scenario is Josh Barnett, a guy who's a former UFC heavyweight champion, a very good heavyweight. He'll fight Travis Brown later this year. A win over Travis Brown, I think, puts Barnett in a real good spot to challenge for that heavyweight title. Daniel Cormier is a training partner of Cain Velasquez. He's his wrestling coach. He fought as well last night, defeating Roy Nelson quite easily, 30-27, winning all 3 rounds on all 3 judges' scorecards. DC is a great heavyweight. People think he could be the next challenge to Cain Velasquez, but obviously they're very good friends. They're not going to fight each other, and DC now dropping to 205 pounds, and he's going to be a real threat to anybody in the light heavyweight division, including John Jones. And they were talking last night about a potential Daniel Cormier-Alexander Gustafsson fight at 205, which would be just tremendous. That fight would be awesome.
Chatting with Dave Simon of Ringside Report Radio, Dave Simon MMA on Twitter. I just tweeted at Dave Simon on Twitter. Stefano Micella also here in the studio. Stefano, did you catch any of the action?
I did catch the last fight, and I was very impressed with Cain Velasquez. I mean, that guy just looks like a monster, and equally impressed somewhat with Junior Dos Santos because I've never seen a guy take a pounding like that and still stay up. I thought for sure that Velasquez was going to knock him out earlier.
Yeah, and he kept on fighting, right? He took that beating, and, Cain did a lot of pushing Junior Dos Santos against the fence and looking for the takedown. What we did see an improvement here in Junior's fight was his wrestling. He came out with a much better wrestling game. His takedown defense was way better than it was last time they fought. Last time they fought, Cain Velasquez was able to take Junior Dos Santos down and punish him on the ground. This time, Cain was not really able to do that. He pushed Junior against the fence looking for those takedowns, but he wasn't able to get them, and that was very impressive because I think Junior Dos Santos was playing that game plan of let Cain try to tire himself out, pushing you against the fence, and then once you disengage, then you try to land your big shot. It seemed like a game plan that maybe could work in the first round, maybe even midway towards the second, but once that second round was over and the third round started, you could tell, well, this game plan's not working because Cain Velasquez does not get tired. He could try and take you down a million times over. He'll get him once. He may not get him the second time or the third time, but he's going to keep going forward because Cain Velasquez does not get tired. We hear stories of Cain Velasquez out-conditioning 155-pounders, 145-pounders, and this guy walks around at 240 pounds,
Wow.
the world heavyweight champion. So Cain Velasquez is just a different type of fighter who really can push that pace at 100% for 25 straight minutes, which is something unheard of at heavyweight. There is no other heavyweight in the world with the pace, with the conditioning of Cain Velasquez, and just an unbelievable wrestling pedigree as well. He's going to be very, very tough to beat.
Dave, as we look ahead here, what is the next big card?
Next card, UFC in Manchester. Just 6 days away now. The UFC keeps on rolling. It'll be Lyoto Machida versus Mark Munoz in Manchester, England. Next.
Oh, it's not Manchester, New Hampshire. Okay, all right.
No. Don't. I mean, it could have been.
Could have been. Yeah.
Why not? Why not? Right. So you got to be specific.
Mhm.
It's in England. It's in the afternoon, right? Because England at nighttime is afternoon over here, which is kind of nice. An afternoon UFC card. Ross Pearson against Melvin Gillard. Canadian fighter Ryan Jimmo taking on Jimmy Manawa, and a bunch of fights in England in about 6 days' time. Next pay-per-view will be UFC 167. Why is that important? 27 days away. Of course, for Montrealers, George St. Pierre defending against Johnny Hendricks, GSP time, in 27 days.
Check out the website, ringsidereport.net, for all the latest coverage of MMA, not just UFC, but other leagues, not leagues, other promotions as well. Thanks a lot, Dave.
Thank you, Matthew.